What's up everyone, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we'll be discussing the WWE 2023 draft. Of course, last night on Raw was the night 2, and we found out where superstars will be going this year's draft. So yeah, let's not waste time. We do have a lot to discuss in this video. So yeah, but before we get into the draft, leave a like, comment, and subscribe, because today, as of recording and uploading, I got a ticket for All In, so that means this summer I will be going to London for both Money in the Bank, SmackDown, and All In. Very excited for that. Expect some maybe vlogs from all three shows. All in Wembley, gonna be great. Money in the Bank, one of my favorite pay-per-views of the year every year. I love the Money in the Bank concept. So excited to go to my first WWE Premium Live event. And of course, Friday night SmackDown, my first TV taping as well, coming up very soon. And now after the draft, we know what we can kind of expect on the SmackDown side of things, and well, on the Raw side of things for Money in the Bank as well. But at least for that SmackDown show, we know who we could potentially be seeing. So let's not waste time. Of course, throughout the draft, they had a load of guests showing up and reappearing. We'd Rob Van Dam, we'd Eric Bischoff on Raw last night. We had Teddy Long, we had JBL, Michael Hayes, Shawn Michaels, Road Dogg, of course Triple H was announcing some. I just have the list from WWE.com on who went where. So I don't have who announced them, but I did want to just quickly say that they were there. So yeah, let's start with the Friday night SmackDown picks. Night 1 of the draft, round 1. The first pick of the draft announced by Triple H, I do remember that much, he announced first round of both nights, is the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns. Get the ones in, alongside Solo Sikoa and Paul Heyman. For some reason, the Usos weren't able to be drafted alongside the rest of the bloodline. And they kind of teased it throughout SmackDown, bits into Raw, that maybe the Usos could be split away from Roman Reigns, which we'll find out whether or not they did or not later on. But makes sense, you undisputed WWE Universal Champion. Being the first pick overall makes a lot of sense, especially when someone like Roman Reigns, probably the biggest star in the company at the moment. And you also get Solo Sikoa and Heyman alongside him. Perfect sense. Very probably predictable as well that he'd go first, but sometimes predictable isn't always bad. And speaking of predictable, pick number 1 for Raw, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. And once I seen Roman and Cody would be eligible to be drafted on the same night in the same draft pool, I figured this is what was going to happen. It was kind of obvious that Roman would go 1 to SmackDown and Cody would go 1 to Raw. Like I said, they're probably your two biggest stars at the moment. So yeah, I felt like that was a bit obvious that they'd be the first two, and of course that means splitting away Roman and Cody, so maybe it makes it a little bit harder for Cody to finish his story in terms of the WWE Undisputed Universal Championship, but it does leave the door open for him to potentially win the new World Heavyweight Championship. Also going in round 1 was Bianca Belair to SmackDown and Becky Lynch to Raw. Just to touch on Bianca a bit, she is the current Raw Women's Champion, so she's going over to SmackDown. She will. They kind of inserted a promo from her. She was on the European tour, so they had her like record a quick promo like in her hotel room, and she was basically saying that she is the SmackDown Women's Champion. No, she kept saying, "I'm excited to be SmackDown Women's Champion." So so it's like they're gonna swap the belts. Hopefully they don't do a stupid segment. Either you like just rename the belts and it's like the Women's World Heavyweight Champion and the WWE Women's Championship or something. Like the men's titles instead of the brand specifics. Or you just have Bianca come out with the blue belt and Rhea coming out with the red belt from now on, and don't do the handing over segment. That was stupid. And of course, the man Becky Lynch going high, of course, as well, another big name. She is staying on Raw, so not really much to say there. In round number 2, SmackDown first chose the Street Profits in Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins. The second pick of round 2 went to Edge. the Rated R Superstar once again back on the blue brand. When I think of Edge, I think of SmackDown. You know, he was part of the original SmackDown 6. You know, he had his run as the World Heavyweight Champion on SmackDown. So having Edge back home on the blue brand for me, where I must associate him with, it's good to see. And yeah, interesting to see who they have the Rated R Superstar feud with over on SmackDown. Street Profits bring them over again. Once Bianca went over, you can kind of suspect that they'd bring Montez over with her, which they did, and of course Angela Dawkins coming along as well. Yeah, interesting to see who. Street Profits great. You can have maybe Montez do some single stuff. You can do some singles stuff. As I said before, though, I wouldn't do a full-on break or a split and a turn one of them. No, you can still push them as singles guys, but also keep them as a team. Raw, however, in round 2, they took Imperium, all 3 members, Giovanni Vinci, Ludwig Kaiser, and of course the reigning Intercontinental Champion Gunther, as well as Matt Riddle. Riddle will be staying on Raw. Bringing Gunther over to Raw, it's good. It opens the door from again. Once he drops the Intercontinental Championship, maybe after breaking Honky Tonk's reign, you can push him then into the World Heavyweight title picture, and he can have him win that, and like you don't have to worry about Roman and stuff. The only negative I can think of this is if you have SmackDown with Roman as your champion and he's not going to be there every week. I feel like having Gunther and the Intercontinental Championship to fill that void would make it a lot less noticeable than maybe with the US Championship. But it is a 2-hour show, so maybe they can do some stuff with the US title to kind of boost it up to a bit live. But I just feel like currently, especially after Gunther's run the matches against Sheamus and Drew McIntyre, I feel like the IC title is at a standard where it could fill that gap right now. But they decided to bring him over to Raw. But as I said, it opens up the door for a future world title win there. In round 3, SmackDown took Bobby Lashley, Raw took Drew McIntyre for their first picks. Again, swapping brands there. Hopefully, we can see a bit of a Drew McIntyre heel run. I'd like to see a heel Drew kind of going, maybe challenging Seth and Cody for the new world title. That could be some good television. Bobby back on SmackDown. I believe this is his first time back on SmackDown. Well, I know he did a few appearances in the lead up to the Bray Wyatt match, which never actually got to happen at WrestleMania. But I feel like this is his first time as a member of the SmackDown roster since his first run with the company back in like 2005. Because then 2006 he goes over to ECW, goes to Raw then in 2007, leaves, and then since he's come back, I'm pretty sure he's been a Raw guy. So again, new scene for Bobby Lashley. And yeah, excited to see him do some stuff on SmackDown. Now the door is open for Bobby versus Roman. So yeah, we can get some good stuff there from Bobby. In round 3, SmackDown then took AJ Styles, Michin, Luke Gallows, and the Machine Gun Carl Anderson, the OC, and returning AJ Styles from injury. Of course, SmackDown, the house that AJ Styles built. So happy to see him back on SmackDown. Again, we can run back AJ and Roman. You can do the Bloodline versus the OC. Of course, Michin, a great addition to the women's division. You have Gallows and Anderson again adding to the tag division on SmackDown. So that is a great pick overall, and I'm happy to see them on SmackDown. Like I said, SmackDown is the house that AJ Styles built. So it's good to see him back there on SmackDown. And then in round 3, Raw took The Miz. A bit surprising to see Miz go that high. But it's The Miz. I am a Miz fan, and he is a good worker. He can fill time with Miz TV. He can go out and have a okay TV match like he did against Rollins a few weeks ago. So yeah, not a bad pick there. Miz is Miz. There's not really much else to say. Round 4 then on SmackDown. Start off with SmackDown taking Damage Control. All 3 members, Bayley, Dakota Kai, Io Sky. I think this is a good move for them. Of course, that means Bianca and Io both on SmackDown, so their match will be for the SmackDown belt, presumably. Bayley, Dakota as well. Damage Control, I'm a big fan of this group. I remember the debut being so excited for And then we kind of dropped the ball a bit. I know I just mentioned Dio and Bianca, but they had Bailey and Bianca feud for months with Bailey just losing constantly. They had Io and Dakota win the tag titles and then just like defend them twice on TV for like 6 months. So yeah, the run hasn't been the greatest, but I do like this group. I think all three are fantastic wrestlers, and I think this group there's a lot of potential. We already know what Bailey can do. If you've watched Io and Dakota and NXT, you can know what they can do. I really do believe all three women in this group can be big names for WWE, can be stars. So hopefully a new scenery on SmackDown does them good, and we can kind of see that group start to realize its potential. Raw then took Shinsuke Nakamura again, recently returned from injury. He's kind of been feuding with Karrion Kross. Kross did attack him after after he got drafted. So that set up a match between them next week, which will be the blow off to their feud. Putting Shinsuke on Raw again, I feel like this is a good decision, especially with that new world title. I've been a big Shinsuke fan for years, even before he was in NXT, going back to New Japan. So I feel like this is having him now on this new brand with the new belt. This is an opportunity for Shinsuke to kind of be pushed at that main event level that he can be, that we've seen that he can perform at. So it is a good chance for him to get that world title run in WWE that he totally deserves. Vince SmackDown called up the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions Alba Fire, Isla Dawn, again Alba Fire, the former Kaylee Ray. Two fantastic additions to the women's roster, both on SmackDown and the women's tag team division, which has needed teams and been crying out for teams for ages. So hopefully this is kind of the start of WWE kind of building up that tag division for the women's titles, which we'll get into a bit more later on, including with our next pick, NXT Women's Champion Indy Hartwell. Well, NXT losing all of their women's champions right now. Very interested to see what they do with them. I know Alba and Isla are scheduled to defend the titles tonight on NXT against Kaden Carter and Katana Chance. But yeah, it went from looking like them guaranteed to drop the belts to, spoiler alert, well, on Raw, Chance and Carter got called up as well. So what is going to happen there, we will have to see. HBK has his work out trying to sort out that NXT Women's Division. Because, well, they're not the only ones he lost. We'll get into that. But yeah, Indy was the last one to get called up on SmackDown. Again, called up as the women's champion. I feel like people were expecting Indy to get called up. Then she won the belt, and people were like, "Oh, maybe she's not getting called up just for her to get called up." But yeah, Indy fully deserves this call up. And again, speaking of the women's tag division, reunite her with Candice LeRae as the way. You've got another women's tag team there for your division. So again, very good addition to the women's division. Could potentially be, depending on if they do put her with Candice, and great addition to the women's tag team division. Then on the SmackDown lowdown, some picks were announced. It doesn't have them in any order here on the website. It just has them listed as who went to where. So Raw got Eric, Ivar, and Valhalla, the Viking Raiders. Dexter Lumis, Candice LeRae, who I just mentioned. You have both Dexter, Candice, and now Indy on Raw, as well as Johnny does get drafted to Raw. So you have, the foundations of the way. Of course, Theory, spoiler alert, gets drafted to SmackDown. So yeah, we are missing Theory, but Dexter and Indy can be put back together and do the index stuff on the main roster, as well as with Candice. So yeah, then Marseille Mansois and Maxine Dupree, the Maximum Male models, also went to Raw. And then we got some Sonya Deville, Natalia, and Chelsea Green. Again, just solid people. They bolster out that women's division over on Monday night. But not only were they the only additions to that women's division, we got Zoe Stark, another NXT call-up, alongside Apollo Crews and JD McDonough. The Irish Ace is on the main roster. I've been watching JD for years. I've seen him at OTT shows live. I've seen him rise up, win world titles there. So see him in NXT killing it, and now on the main roster. Excited to for like more people to get to see what JD can do. You know, I will not be opposed to them running him and going to the back. I've seen that match live a couple of times. Every time they killed it, run that for the IC title. You know, Apollo Crews, again, good to see him back in the main roster. Hopefully things work out for him on the main roster a bit better than they did in his last run. And Zoe Stark, a fantastic addition to the women's division. I think she's a great worker. And she could be someone that you can slowly build up, and maybe in the next year or two, she could be potentially ready for a run as champion on the main roster. Also on SmackDown Lowdown, SmackDown, they got Top Dollar, Ashanti, the Adonis, and B-Fab, of course, making up Hit Row, and they took Lacey Evans. Free agents wise, that left almost Mustafa Ali, Dolph Ziggler, and again another call up in NXT, in Von Wagner. No more come Tuesday, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of the free agent stuff. Maybe it's just how they explained it, but from what it seems like is free agents, they can show up on Raw, they can show up on SmackDown whenever, like they can show up whenever and wherever they want. Kind of defeats the purpose of a brand split, in my opinion. I would have liked to have a fully forced brand split, but maybe it's just a bad explanation, and it's like, okay, they're not signed somewhere currently, but they could sign to SmackDown or they could sign to Raw. I personally would rather that than them just having free will to shop whenever and wherever. But with other but with Omos and with Brock Lesnar, of course, who went as a free agent as well, they kind of made it seem like they worked out deals where they're not tied to one brand of they can just do whatever they want. I'm not a big fan that I like hard brand splits. I feel like if you're splitting them, commit to it. I feel like it hurts the brand split just doing stupid stuff like that, like the wildcard rule back when they did that. I'm not a fan of it, but we'll have to see how it plays out, I guess, because maybe it was just poorly explained, or I misunderstood what they were saying. But yeah, let's move on to Monday Night Raw, because I've been talking for 20 minutes so we still have another half of the draft to get through. Round 1, first pick for Raw, Rhea Ripley, again, great pick. Of course, with Bianca going to SmackDown as Raw Women's Champion, Raw takes SmackDown Women's Champion. So yeah, kind of seen that one coming, as well as the next one with the United States Champion Austin Theory going to SmackDown. And this wasn't really obvious with Gunther coming to Raw as Intercontinental Champion, because Theory could have lost the belt to Bronson or Bobby, and they took Bobby was already drafted to SmackDown. So, you know, he could have dropped the belt at Backlash and won, then take the belt over. But the United States Championship moving over, once the IC title got moved over, it was just a matter of time before the United States Champion went to SmackDown. And then Seth freaking Rollins, again, he went to Raw, again, one of the favourites to win the new World Championship. I feel like he probably should be the one to win it. You know, he had a good segment with Paul Heyman cutting a promo on Raw. You know, and I feel like Seth is the type of person that can make that belt feel special, make it feel like it is a title on the level of Roman Reigns's. And then SmackDown took Charlotte Flair, and this is where Brock Lesnar was announced to go as a free agent. Round 2 saw Raw take the Undisputed Tag Team Champions of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Interested to see what they do with the tag belts here. Do they kind of do what they did with the women's tag titles and have cross-brand, or do they split up the tag belts and SmackDown get a set of belts, Raw get a set of belts? We'll have to wait and see, but Kevin and Sami are on Raw. Kind of a positive here, it takes them off the same brand as the Bloodline. I feel like people have gotten tired of the same stuff. You know, the Bloodline and the Sami Zayn stuff was fantastic, but you know, since WrestleMania, it's kind of just been okay, copy and paste. We haven't really got much progression. So yeah, now taking them away and giving them something new, something fresh, I think is a good idea. Which leads to SmackDown taking the Usos, which again, good pick, since they already had Roman and Solo. We can continue on the little tension and the dissension within the Bloodline and the cracks continuing to form. Raw then took the Judgment Day, which was Finn Balor, Priest, and Dominic. Of course, they already had took Rhea. I don't get why Rhea and the Judgment Day had to go separately. You know, you have uh, you have like Imperium going as a group, so it's not like champions can't go with the group because Gunther went with his group, but Rhea didn't, and it's not because like the divisions, because she's a woman and you can't draft them, because DOC got Michin, Viking Raiders got Valhalla, Hit Row got PFAB, LWO go with Selena, so it's kind of weird, but it's what the way WWE decided to do it. I think again maybe it was to just tease the split, but yeah, Judgment Day is still together, which I'm very happy about. I do like the Judgment Day and what they've been doing, so I think it is a good thing to keep them together. This leads to then Rey Mysterio, Santos Escobar, Cruz del Toro, Joaquin Wilde, and Zelina Vega. Of course, the LWO going to SmackDown. So again, separating them from the Judgment Day, which means we can kind of move on with both groups and move on to something new and something fresh. Raw, round 3 Raw then draft the women's tag team champions Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. Of course, they did lose a match on Raw to Bailey and Dakota Kai, so maybe that sets up Raquel and Liv versus Dakota and Bailey. So yeah, interesting to see what they do with Liv and Raquel over on Raw. SmackDown then took Asuka, which happy about. Big fan of Asuka. Hopefully they start to do something with her. She hasn't been on TV since Mania. I still think she should be Bianca at Mania. But yeah, look, we moved on to Io and Bianca, which would be good. But like you have to find out what you do with Asuka, and even bringing her over to SmackDown and kind of like, okay, now we can get onto something fresh. But can we really when she's back on the same brand as Bianca? So if she was to go for the challenge for title, she'd be going after Bianca again, unless Bianca does lose TO, and I won't mind seeing Io and Asuka feud for the belt. But yeah, just hopefully this means we get some like a new brand, new show, change of scenery. Hopefully it means we get a bit of a push more for Asuka. Xavier Rhodes and Kofi Kingston, of course, the New Day going to Raw. Hopefully Kofi is back from injury soon. And hopefully Big E isn't too far out from injury either. I'm missing all 3 of the New Day together. Even though I have been enjoying the little singles push Xavier has been getting, he had the match against Gunther for the IC title. He picked up a couple of wins against LA Knight. So yeah, I've been happy to see Xavier get to show he can do in singles, because I know what he can do, and I'm happy he's been given the chance to like kind of show that. SmackDown then took the Brawling Brutes, which of course Rich Holland, Butch, and Sheamus. I kind of good on this one because I mean Sheamus and Gunther are not on the same brand, which means Sheamus won't get his IC title win anytime soon. Like, I love Sheamus, I want him to become that Grand Slam champion so bad, but I thought he was going to do it at WrestleMania, but they didn't. So hopefully that means Gunther breaks Honky Tonk Man's record. I think that will be sometime this year, so why not fully commit to it. But yeah, Sheamus again, he's also not on the same brand as that new world title. So what do you do with Sheamus? We'll have to wait and see what happens with Sheamus and the Brawling Brutes. Round 4 then, Raw took Trish Stratus, SmackDown took Karrion Kross, Raw then took Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, and SmackDown took LA Knight. Yeah. The only one really I've talked about here is LA Knight. The rest are kind of like whatever. Trish Straw kind of makes sense. Cross then on SmackDown, not much really talk about there. Rousey and Shayna going over to Raw, not really much to talk about there, but they do kind of add a bit of depth to the Raw Women's division. But LA Knight, he's someone that personally I thought should have went to Raw. You have the extra hour on Raw, so you would have been able to get a bit more time for him. But he has been getting a lot of time on SmackDown, but you could have get maybe the extra hour gives him maybe show a bit more promo time. But not only that, but with the new World Heavyweight title, he's someone that a lot of people would have liked to have seen for challenge, and I think he could have. I think he's a great. I know he's kind of getting over as a babyface, but I was going to say I think he's a great heel that you could put against a Seth or a Cody or whoever. But yeah, maybe he gets a run as United States champion. I know there was talk of maybe he's rumored to win Money in the Bank. Again, that's kind of another reason I would have liked to see him on Raw, because if he did win Money in the Bank, he could have cashed it in. Like, well, maybe he does cash it in on the Raw title and switch brands. Maybe like he does that like a SummerSlam or Survivor Series or something where like both shows are together. Or even though, well, as of now, they haven't announced any like brand specific pay per views. It's just been rumored. But yeah, I was kind of expecting him to go to Raw, so surprised he's staying on SmackDown. Raw then took Braun Strowman and Ricochet in round 5 alongside Bronson Reed, while SmackDown took Shotzi and yes boy, Pretty Deadly going to SmackDown. Big fan of Pretty Deadly. They're very entertaining on NXT. Of course, rumored for a long time this call up, and if you watched NXT, you would have seen that they went swimming with the fishes thanks to Tony D and Stacks. But yeah, happy to see Pretty Deadly finally get that call up again. Another great team. On the same brand as the Street Profits. That is a program I would like to see. Pretty Deadly versus Usos as well, possibility. Bronson Reed as well, staying on Raw. Won't mind seeing him going up against Gunther for the IC title at some point. I feel like he is someone that is ready for a mid-card run. I was hoping he would win the United States Championship at Backlash, but now with that being said, it doesn't look likely with Bobby and Austin going to SmackDown and Bronson staying on Raw and Gunther already coming over with the Intercontinental Championship. As much as I would love to see him win the US Championship at Backlash, now I'm starting to doubt that will happen. Moving on to round number 6, the last round to take place last night on Raw. Of course, we have more from Raw Talk, which I'll get into, but Alpha Academy staying on Raw, good. Hopefully we can see Chad Gable maybe get kind of rise up a bit. Again, I won't break up Alpha Academy, but I would like to see Chad Gable get to show him what he can do a bit more. Maybe have him in the new World Title Tournament. Of course, he doesn't have to win it, but give him a little platform. Rick Boogs goes to SmackDown. Chance and Carter, of course, I already kind of talked about going to Raw. Another great addition to the women's tag division. Kind of surprising though. And then SmackDown, Cameron Grimes going to the moon. Great pick for SmackDown. Grimes, someone rumored for that call up for a long time. Happy it's finally happened, and yeah, big fan of Cameron Grimes since I first seen him as Trevor Lee in PWG. I loved his stuff in TNA, loved his stuff in NXT. So very excited to see him on the main roster. Now onto the Raw Talk selections. Raw Talk, Akira Tozawa, Garzan Humberto, Dana Brooke, Emma, in this year, of course, Jinder Mahal and Veer, and I can't remember the name of the other member right now, but in this year up onto Raw. Johnny Gargano surprised. Sad to see him go this low. Nikki Cross, Odyssey Jones, Piper Niven, Riddick Moss, Tegan Knox, and Xia Li. Odyssey Jones is a surprising one coming up from NXT as well. In this year is a bit of a surprise as well, since Jinder only really went back down and started this stuff in this year a couple of months ago. But yeah, I've seen a lot of people complain, oh, how is like Odyssey Jones and all these in this year getting called up before Tyler Bate and Ilya Dragunov and all. And I'm like, well, you need to keep people. Well, one, you need guys that you can beat and put in matches and take falls on the main roster, and two, you need people that people want to see on NXT. Because if you call up everyone people want to see on NXT, who's people going to tune in for? But yeah, that is not the only NXT calls up on this, because SmackDown took Grayson Waller and Tamina God. But yeah, Grayson Waller again, very very good in NXT. He's kind of just coming off a feud for the world title down there. So excited to see what he does. Great, very entertaining. I think he'll be a good success on the main roster. And free agents, Baron Corbin, Shelton Benjamin, Cedric Alexander Elias, and Zion Quinn. Again, Zion Quinn getting the call up. I already mentioned why I'm not a big fan of the free agent stuff. Also to note that I did not know until looking at this list right in front of me on WWE.com. Samantha Irvin will be the ring announcer for Raw, so she's getting moved over to Raw. And Mike Rome will be the ring announcer for SmackDown, so they're bringing over the ring announcers. Which is good because we get to hear Samantha Irvin continue to announce Gunther and Imperium now. But yeah, I did not know that until I just seen it there, so yeah, that is it. I know a lot to talk about there. I do think both brands look interesting. There's a lot of exciting stuff on both brands. But I'm interested to see how it plays out and how things go. And that is going to be it for this video. If you did enjoy, please do leave a like. Let me know what you thought of the draft and where people ended up in the comment section below. Leave a like if you haven't, and I will see you in the next one.